The sun punished the cracked ground of Dry Creek mercilessly, a small town lost in the Arizona desert. The few shadows cast by the adobe houses were fought over by skinny dogs wandering the deserted streets. The hot wind lifted the reddish dust, creating whirlwinds that danced between the semi-deserted streets on that February morning. Olivia, an 11-year-old girl with sun-tanned skin and brown eyes as deep as the soil after rain, swept the small porch of the simple house where she lived with her mother, Susan. With quick, precise movements, she pushed the dust outside, in a daily and endless battle against the dryness of the desert that insisted on invading every crack. "Olivia, sweetheart, have you sorted the beans I asked for?" Susan called from the kitchen, where she was preparing lunch with the little they had. "Yes, Mum. They're separated just how you like them," replied the girl, pointing to the small containers where she had classified the beans by size, as her mother had taught her. Susan smiled discreetly, admiring her daughter's dedication. Since Joseph, her husband, had left nearly 2 years ago to work on farms in the north, promising to send money and return as soon as he saved enough, it had been just the two of them against the world's difficulties. "Do you think Dad will come back soon?" asked Olivia, the question she asked almost every day as she sat on the doorstep, watching the horizon as if expecting her father's figure to appear at any moment. "When God wills it, daughter. Your father's working hard so we can have a better life," Susan answered, the same response as always, although each day her voice carried less conviction. Joseph's letters, which used to arrive monthly, were now rare. The last money sent had barely been enough to buy food for a month, and that was almost 6 months ago. Susan hid her worries from Olivia, but at night, when the girl slept, she cried silently, fearing for the future. After finishing her chores, Olivia went out around the neighborhood. She knew every alley, every house, every resident of that town that seemed to live in a different time from the rest of the world. She helped Mr. Anthony, an elderly man who lived alone, feed his chickens. In exchange, she received some eggs that supplemented the food at home. "Olivia, did you hear the news?" asked Sarah, a girl the same age who lived nearby. "There's going to be a cattle auction here in town." Olivia's eyes sparkled. It was rare for something different to happen in Dry Creek. "When will it be?" she asked anxiously. "In 2 weeks. My dad said important people are coming from all over Arizona. Rich ranchers, buyers from other states." Olivia imagined the town transformed, full of life and movement. Maybe her father, who always liked such events, might even show up. The thought made her heart race. That night, during the simple dinner of beans with cornbread, Olivia couldn't contain her excitement. "Mom, did you know about the auction?" "It's going to be the biggest event ever here." Susan nodded, serving a little more beans on her daughter's plate. "Yes, I know, honey. Everyone's talking about it. But it's not a place for people like us. Only big shots will be there, ranchers. With money." "But we can go just to look, can't we?" insisted Olivia, with that determined gleam in her eyes that Susan knew so well. "We'll see, my dear. We'll see." What Susan didn't know was that auction would forever change the small family's life. The seed of change was already planted in Olivia's dreaming mind, ready to germinate and grow, even in the arid and merciless soil of the Arizona desert. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. The 2 weeks leading up to the auction passed slowly for Olivia. The small town of Dry Creek began to transform. Cars and trucks from outside arrived loaded with cattle and merchandise. A large tent was erected in the clearing near the church, and food and craft stalls began to appear in the vicinity. "Look, Mom, they're setting everything up," exclaimed Olivia, pointing to the activity as they returned from the weekly market, carrying bags with the few supplies they could afford. Susan observed with a distrustful look. Events like these always brought temporary hope, but rarely actually changed the lives of the poorest residents. "Don't get your hopes up too much, honey. Tomorrow the auction ends, all these people leave, and our life continues the same." Despite her mother's pessimism, Olivia didn't lose her enthusiasm. In the following days, she spent hours helping neighbors in exchange for some spare change. She swept yards, fetched water, looked after younger children, all to save some money. "What are you saving all that money for, girl?" asked Susan, seeing. Olivia, count the coins stored in an old glass jar. It's a surprise, Mum, you'll see, replied the girl with a mysterious smile. The eve of the auction finally arrived. The town was unrecognizable, filled with outsiders and full of life. Olivia couldn't sleep with so much excitement, tossing and turning on the mat that served as her bed. The sun had barely risen when she was already up, wearing her best dress, a simple faded blue outfit that her mother had sewn for Christmas the previous year. "Where do you think you're going all dressed up?" questioned Susan, seeing her daughter carefully combing her hair. "To the auction, Mum. You're coming too, right? I arranged everything so we could go together." "Me?" "No, honey. I have to wash clothes for the Johnsons today. They pay well and—" "We need the money," Susan replied with a tired air. "But, Mom—" "Go by yourself, Olivia. Just don't get into trouble and come back before lunch, okay?" With her mother's permission, Olivia left excitedly, the jar with her savings hidden in the cloth bag she carried. The field where the auction was taking place was an explosion of colors, sounds and smells. Handlers guided the cattle, auctioneers announced the lots, and buyers gestured animatedly, indicating their bids. Intimidated by the size of the event, Olivia watched from a distance until she saw a different movement near a small pen set apart. Approaching curiously, she saw an animal she had never seen before, an old, worn-out buffalo lying on dry straw. "What kind of animal is that, mister?" she asked a stern-looking man who was watching the animal with contempt. "It's a buffalo." "A girl." "His name is Chief," replied Tom without looking directly at her, "but he's more likely to become vulture food than anything else." Olivia approached the fence, feeling an immediate connection with that mistreated animal. The buffalo's eyes, despite his debilitated body, still showed a spark of life that touched the girl's heart. "Why is he like this?" she asked, outraged at the animal's condition. "Old animals are useless. Don't even know why I brought him to—" "The auction? Nobody's going to want to buy this," Tom replied with disdain. "If you've got any money, girl, you can have him. I'm looking to get rid of him anyway." Olivia felt the jar of coins weigh in her bag. It wasn't much, but it was everything she had saved in the last few months. Without thinking twice, she took it out of her bag. "How much do you want for him?" Tom laughed, looking with disbelief at the skinny little girl in front of him. "Are you serious, girl? What's a little squirt like you going to do with a dying buffalo?" "I'll take care of him," Olivia replied firmly. "How much?" Something in the girl's determination made Tom stop laughing. He looked at the jar full of coins and then at the nearly worthless buffalo. "Everything in that jar," he finally said, extending his hand. Without hesitation, Olivia handed over her savings. The man quickly counted the coins, barely hiding his satisfaction at getting rid of a problem and still making some money. "He's yours, take him and good luck," he mocked, handing her an old rope tied to the buffalo's neck. "You'll need it." Olivia didn't care about the mocking tone. She knelt beside Chief, gently caressing his head. "Come on, Chief, now it's you and me," she whispered in the animal's ear, who watched her with tired but curious eyes. Slowly, the buffalo stood up, as if understanding that his life was about to change. Together, girl and buffalo left the auction field, attracting looks of astonishment and laughter of disbelief. Olivia knew she would face Susan's fury, but something inside her said she had made the right choice. Chief needed her, and somehow she did not yet understand she needed him too. The sun was already high when Olivia arrived home, guiding the buffalo with difficulty through the narrow streets of Dry Creek. People stopped to watch, pointing and whispering. Some laughed, others shook their heads in disapproval. Little Sarah, who was playing in the street, widened her eyes when she saw her friend. "Oh my goodness, Olivia! What kind of animal is that?" she asked, approaching cautiously. "This is Chief, my buffalo," replied Olivia proudly, caressing the dull fur of the animal. "I bought him at the auction." "You bought that thing, but he's all worn out, girl. Does your mum know about this?" Olivia's smile faltered. This was the moment she feared most. Not yet, but she will now. As if summoned by her daughter's words, Susan appeared at the door, drying her hands on her apron. Her face went from curiosity to disbelief, and finally to fury when she realized what Olivia had brought with her. "Girl, what is this about?" she shouted, descending the steps of the small porch in long strides. "What animal is that? Where did you get him?" "Mum, I can explain." "Explain what? That you brought this thing to our house?" Susan circled the buffalo, evaluating its deplorable state. "Just look at him. He's almost leaving this world." "Don't talk like that, Mom," protested Olivia with tears in her eyes. "His name is Chief, and I bought him at the auction." "Bought? With what money, girl?" Susan's voice was loaded with anger and despair. "With the coins." "So I've been saving," confessed Olivia, lowering her gaze. "The coins?" Your face paled. "Those that I thought you were saving to help at home? You spent everything on an animal that won't even last a week?" The argument attracted the attention of neighbors who approached to see what was happening. Olivia's face burned with shame, but she stood firm beside Chief. "He will live, Mom. I'll take care of him. You'll see." "And where will he stay? What will we feed him with? We barely have enough for ourselves." Susan ran her hands through her hair in desperation. "Your father sends less and less money, and the drought only gets worse. And now this. I can keep him in the backyard. There's that piece of land we don't use. And food, water. Did you think about that?" "I'll work more, Mum. I'll help more people, save more money," promised Olivia, determination evident in every word. Susan looked long at her daughter and then at the buffalo. It was visible that the animal was mistreated, probably hungry and thirsty. As much as she wanted to tell her daughter to return the animal, she knew no one would take him back. "For heaven's sake, Olivia," she sighed deeply. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Yes, Mom. I saved him," replied the girl simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Something in her daughter's unwavering conviction made Susan back down. She knew that look well. It was the same as Joseph's when he made a decision nothing would change his mind about. "This animal is your responsibility, you hear me?" she finally declared, pointing her finger at her daughter. "If he gets sick, if he causes problems, if he needs anything, it's your problem. I don't want to know." "Yes, Ma'am," replied Olivia, a smile beginning to form on her lips. "And this beast doesn't come inside the house. No way. He'll stay in the yard, I promise." The neighbors who were watching the scene began to disperse, some laughing at the girl's madness, others commenting on childish naivety. No one believed the buffalo would survive more than a few days. Olivia guided Chief to the small patch of land behind the house. It was a modest space, with some vegetation resistant to drought, enough to shelter the animal. Using some pieces of wood and old ropes, she improvised a shelter against the scorching sun. "This will be your home now, Chief," she said, caressing the animal's muzzle, who watched her with his tired eyes. "I know it's not much, but it's better than that pen, where you were. And I promise I'll take care of you until you're strong again." She fetched an old bucket, filled it with water from the well, and offered it to the buffalo, who drank eagerly. Her heart ached when she realized how thirsty the animal was. "Tomorrow I'll look for good food for you. You'll see, you'll be strong and beautiful, and no one will laugh at us anymore." When the sun began to set, Olivia reluctantly left Chief to help her mother with dinner. The mood inside the house was tense, with Susan still visibly upset. "That animal will bring trouble, Olivia. You'll see," muttered her mother as they ate in silence. "No, he won't, Mom. He'll bring joy to our lives," replied the girl, with a conviction that went beyond her 11 years. "You'll be proud of me and Chief, I promise. Tentar novamente continuar editor." The first rays of the sun had barely appeared when Olivia was already in the yard, observing Chief. During the night, she had hardly been able to sleep, worried about the animal's well-being. The buffalo remained lying in the same place where she had left him, breathing with difficulty. "Good morning, Chief," she whispered, approaching slowly. "How are you today?" The animal raised its head slightly, recognizing her presence. Olivia noticed that his eyes seemed even more dejected in the morning light. Quickly, she filled the bucket with fresh water and placed it near the buffalo's muzzle, which drank with effort. The girl examined the animal more carefully. His coat was dull and full of wounds, some still open. In various parts of the body, the ribs were visible under the skin, evidencing the prolonged hunger he had suffered. "My God, what did they do to you?" she murmured, feeling tears form in her eyes. Without wasting time, she ran into the house and returned with a piece of clean cloth and a basin with water. With delicate gestures, she began to clean the animal's wounds, which trembled at her touch but did not resist. "It will pass, okay? I promise," she said as she worked. "You're going to get better." Susan observed from the kitchen window, shaking, her head in disapproval but without interfering. Deep down, she was impressed with her daughter's dedication, even believing it would be in vain. After cleaning Chief's wounds, Olivia realized she needed food for the animal. She went around the yard and surroundings, collecting all vegetation that seemed edible. She returned with her arms loaded with dry grass and some greener leaves she found near the almost dry creek that ran behind the town. "Look what I brought for you," she exclaimed, depositing the bundle of vegetation near the buffalo. Chief sniffed the food but could barely rise to eat. Olivia helped him, holding the leaves close to his muzzle. The animal ate slowly, with evident difficulty. "Take it easy," she guided, as if the buffalo could understand her. "There's plenty, you know." "No." "Need to rush." While Chief was feeding, Sarah appeared in the yard, curious to see the new resident. "Is it true you really bought this animal?" she asked, keeping a safe distance. "Yes, I did," replied Olivia proudly. "He was being mistreated. He would have died if he had stayed with that mean man." "And how are you going to take care of him? Look at the size of that creature." "One day at a time," replied Olivia, repeating an expression she often heard from her mother. "First, I have to heal these wounds and make him eat properly." Sarah came a little closer, still cautious. "Can I help?" she finally asked. Olivia's face lit up. "Of course you can. The more people helping, the better." With her friend's help, Olivia planned a routine of care for Chief. Sarah was put in charge of bringing more grass when she found it in her wanderings around the region, while Olivia committed to cleaning the wounds daily and ensuring the animal had fresh water. During the morning, while cleaning the house, Susan tried to talk to her daughter about the situation. "Honey, I know you're excited, but this animal is very sick. I don't want you to suffer when—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "When he can't hold on anymore." "He will hold on, Mom," replied Olivia firmly. "You'll see." "Olivia, there are things in life that we can't change no matter how much we want to. That buffalo is already almost—" "Don't say that," interrupted Olivia, covering her ears. "He just needs someone who believes in him, who takes care of him properly." Susan sighed, recognizing the futility of continuing that discussion. "All right, daughter, but remember you promised it would be your responsibility." In the late afternoon, Mr. Anthony, the elderly man Olivia used to help, appeared to see the buffalo. He brought with him a bag of straw and some homemade remedies. "I heard you got yourself a new friend," he said, smiling at Olivia. "I came to take a look at him." The old man approached Chief, examining him with the experienced eyes of someone who had spent a lifetime dealing with animals. "This one has been through hard times, but he still has a chance," he commented, opening the bag he had brought. "I brought some things that might help." From the bag, he took out a flask with a dark aromatic liquid. "This here is copaiba oil with herbs, good for wounds. And I also brought these aloe vera leaves, great for infection." Olivia watched attentively as Mr. Anthony demonstrated how to apply the remedies to Chief's wounds. The buffalo seemed more relaxed with the old man's experienced touch. "Now, the most important thing is feeding. Bring young grass, those greener shoots. They're easier to digest and have more nutrients," he explained. "And moisten the dry grass a bit before giving it to him." "Do you think he'll make it?" asked Olivia, her voice loaded with hope. Mr. Anthony looked long at the buffalo, then at the girl. "If it depends on your willpower, girl, this animal will outlive all of us," he replied with a gentle smile. "But it's going to be a tough fight. You need to have patience." When night fell, Olivia improvised a bed for herself next to Chief, determined to sleep in the yard to monitor the animal. "Where do you think you're going to sleep, girl?" asked Susan when she saw her spread an old mat on the ground in the yard. "Here with Chief, Mum. What if he needs me during the night?" Susan shook her head, but didn't have the heart to contradict her daughter. She brought an old blanket and spread it over the mat. "At least cover yourself. The night gets cold even in the desert heat." Lying next to the buffalo under the starry desert sky, Olivia felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She gently caressed Chief's head, who watched her with his tired but attentive eyes. "We're going to make it, you know," she whispered. To the animal, "You and me together. Nobody believes it, but we're going to show everyone how strong you are." The weeks passed, and to everyone's surprise in Dry Creek, Chief was still alive. Not just alive, but showing small signs of improvement. The more superficial wounds were beginning to heal, and the animal could now stand for longer periods, although still with evident difficulty. The backyard of Susan's house had been transformed. With the help of Sarah and some other friends who had approached, curious about the buffalo's story, Olivia had managed to build a better shelter for Chief. Mr. Anthony had provided some old boards he had stored, and the neighborhood boys helped assemble a simple but efficient structure to protect the animal from the sun and rain when it rarely fell. "Look how much better he is, Mom!" exclaimed Olivia during breakfast while observing Chief through the kitchen window. Today he already got up by himself. Susan looked in the direction indicated by her daughter. Indeed, the buffalo seemed a little less skeletal, and his coat was beginning to regain some shine. Even so, she maintained her skeptical posture. "Yeah, he's improving a little bit, but he's still far from being well, Olivia. Don't get your hopes up too much." "You just need to believe more," replied the girl, quickly finishing her coffee to go take care of Chief. Olivia had created a rigorous routine for the animal's treatment. In the morning, she cleaned the space where he slept, changing the straw and removing the waste. Then she applied the natural remedies that Mr. Anthony had taught her to the wounds that had not yet completely healed. Throughout the day, she fed him small portions of grass and foliage, following the guidance not to overload his debilitated stomach. "He's eating more, that's a good sign," commented Mr. Anthony one afternoon when he came to check on the animals. "Progress. And look, his coat is already starting to shine here in this part." "It's true," agreed Olivia enthusiastically. "And he already recognizes me. When I arrive, he makes that little noise. Look." As if understanding they were talking about him, Chief emitted a deep, soft sound, turning his head toward Olivia. "See? He knows it's me." Mr. Anthony smiled, impressed with the bond forming between the girl and the animal. "This creature is lucky to have found you, Olivia." That same afternoon, while Olivia was arranging fresh straw for Chief, she heard raised voices coming from the front of the house. Curious, she approached the fence to see what was happening. Her heart raced when she recognized Tom, Chief's former owner, talking to her mother. "That buffalo belongs to me, Ma'am," he insisted, gesturing nervously. "The girl couldn't have bought him. It was a misunderstanding." "My daughter gave all the money she had for that animal," replied Susan firmly, surprising Olivia with her defense. "The deal was made, and the buffalo is now hers. That animal isn't worth even half of what I asked. I was joking with the girl, never thought she'd take it seriously." Olivia ran out, positioning herself beside her mother. "You sold him to—" "Me," she shouted, trembling with anger and fear. "Chief is mine now." Tom looked at the girl with disdain. "Chief? You even gave the beast a name?" He laughed maliciously. "That thing won't last another week." "Well, you should know that he's been with us for almost a month now," intervened Susan, surprising Olivia even more. "And he's getting better every day." Tom's face showed genuine astonishment. He clearly hadn't expected the buffalo to still be alive. "That doesn't change anything." "I want him back." "Why?" challenged Olivia. "You said yourself he was useless, that he was almost dying." Tom was without a response for a moment, then cleared his throat. "I have my reasons. I'll be back tomorrow with the money you gave me." "The buffalo comes back with me." As he walked away, Olivia grabbed her mother's arm, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, you're not going to let him take Chief, are you?" Susan looked at her daughter, then in the direction of the yard where the buffalo was resting, and finally at Tom's retreating figure. "No, honey. I won't let him," she replied with a conviction that surprised even herself. "That buffalo is yours, and he'll stay that way." If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. Tom's words had left a trail of worry in the small house. That night, Olivia could hardly sleep, fearing the man would return to take Chief away. She had spent hours beside the buffalo, whispering promises of protection, as if the animal could understand her words. "I won't let him take you, Chief. I promise. You're getting better, and you'll get even stronger." The next morning, Susan found her daughter asleep next to the buffalo. Her heart tightened, seeing the girl's dedication. Slowly, she was beginning to recognize that the animal meant much more than a simple childish whim. "Olivia, wake up, honey," she called softly, touching her shoulder. "It's time for breakfast." The girl woke up confused, immediately looking at Chief as if fearing he had disappeared during the night. "He's still here," smiled Susan, helping her daughter get up. "Come eat something, then we'll talk about what to do with Tom." While having their simple breakfast, Olivia couldn't stop looking out the window, fearing to see Tom approaching. "Mom, what if he really comes back? What if he tries to take Chief by force?" Susan sighed, thoughtful. "Mr. Anthony told me there's going to be a livestock exhibition here in Dry Creek in about 3 months, she commented, carefully observing her daughter's reaction. "Apparently, breeders from all over the state are coming. They show their animals, there are prizes." Olivia's eyes lit up. "Are you thinking we could take Chief?" "I don't know if he'll be well by then, Olivia, but if he is—" She hesitated, as if carefully weighing her next words. "Animals registered for the exhibition are protected. Tom couldn't simply take him." "That would be perfect, Mom," exclaimed Olivia, almost knocking over her coffee mug, "and we can show everyone how strong and beautiful Chief has become." "Slow down, honey, it's not that simple. You need documents, registration fees, and the animal has to be in good condition." Olivia's enthusiasm diminished a bit. "And how are we going to get all that?" Before Susan could answer, loud knocks on the door announced a visitor. Olivia's heart raced. "It's him, Mum, it's Tom!" Susan stood up, adjusting her apron with gestures that tried to disguise her own nervousness. "Stay here, Olivia. I'll answer." "It." But Olivia ignored the order, following her mother to the door. To their surprise, it wasn't Tom who was there, but Mr. Anthony, accompanied by a man they didn't know. "Good morning, Susan." "Good morning, Olivia," greeted Mr. Anthony. "I brought someone who wanted to meet Chief, if you don't mind." The stranger was a middle-aged man, dressed simply but with an air of authority that didn't go unnoticed. His eyes were kind, contrasting with his erect and formal posture. "This is James Rodriguez," introduced Mr. Anthony. "He's a veterinarian and also works with the organization of the livestock exhibition that's going to happen here." "It's a pleasure," greeted James, extending his hand to Susan and then to Olivia. "Mr. Anthony told me the story of this buffalo you're taking care of, and I became interested in meeting him." Olivia looked distrustfully at the man, fearing it might be some kind of trap set by Tom. "Do you know Tom?" she asked directly, ignoring her mother's disapproving look at the lack of manners. James frowned, confused. "Tom? I don't know anyone by that name." "Why?" Susan intervened, inviting the men to come in. "It's a long story," she explained, as she guided them to the backyard. "This Tom is the former owner of the buffalo, and now he wants him back." James Rodriguez's expression became serious as Susan recounted the events of the previous day. When they reached the small enclosure where Chief was, the veterinarian remained silent, carefully observing the animal. "May I approach him?" he asked Olivia, instinctively recognizing that the girl had the strongest connection with the buffalo. "Yes, you can," she replied, still a bit distrustful, "but slowly. He still gets scared easily with strangers." James approached slowly, speaking in a low and calm voice. To Olivia's surprise, Chief allowed the man to touch him, examining his healing wounds and his general condition. "Impressive," murmured James after a few minutes. "From what Mr. Anthony told me about the state he arrived in, you've done an amazing job." The compliment made Olivia's chest swell with pride. "He's still thin, but he's already much better," she commented, approaching and caressing the buffalo's head, "and the wounds are almost all closed." James continued examining Chief, now with professional eyes, checking his teeth, eyes, and movements. "Do you know what kind of buffalo he is?" he asked, turning to Olivia and Susan. Both shook their heads. "This is an American bison, a breed valued for its resistance and adaptability," explained James. "Despite his debilitated state, he's an interesting specimen." "Do you think he can participate in the livestock exhibition?" asked Olivia anxiously, revealing the plans she had just discussed with her mother. James looked again at the animal, as if assessing his possibilities. "If you continue caring for him as you have been, and if he continues responding well, yes, I think he can. He'll need to gain more weight, and his coat needs to regain its shine, but there's enough time." Olivia's eyes shone with enthusiasm. "And that would prevent Tom from taking him away?" James frowned, thoughtful. "Well, to register an animal for the exhibition, you need to prove ownership. If you have some receipt for the purchase—" "We don't have anything," interrupted Susan, disheartened. "It was a verbal transaction, in the middle of the auction." "I see," murmured James. "In that case, I'll need to investigate a bit more about this Tom fellow and the history of this animal. Perhaps there's something we can do." Hope was reborn in Olivia's heart. "You're going to help us?" she asked, with tears in her eyes. James smiled gently, touched by the girl's dedication. "I'll do what I can. After all, it's not every day we see someone so young showing so much responsibility and care for an animal." The following weeks brought a new routine to Susan's house. James Rodriguez began visiting Chief regularly, bringing appropriate medications, feed enriched with nutrients, and professional guidance on how to care for the buffalo. Olivia absorbed each teaching with extraordinary attention, strictly following all recommendations. "I'm impressed with his progress," commented James on a hot afternoon, as he watched Chief grazing peacefully in the small plot, now stronger, and with a coat that was beginning to show a healthy shine. "Your dedication is working miracles, Olivia." The girl smiled, proud. Chief really seemed like a different animal. His ribs were no longer so visible, the wounds had healed almost completely, and he showed more energy each day. Occasionally, the buffalo even played with Olivia, following her around the yard and responding to her calls with deep, friendly sounds. "How much time until the exhibition, Dr. James?" asked Olivia anxiously. "Just over a month now," he replied, consulting a small calendar he carried in his pocket. "And I have good news. I've secured a special entry for Chief in the Recovery and Animal Welfare category." Olivia's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Really? And what do we need to do?" "We need to document all his progress. I've been taking some photographs during my visits, but it would be good if you could write down everything you've been doing, how he's been responding, how much he eats per day, that kind of thing." Susan, who had approached to listen to the conversation, looked concerned. "And what about Tom?" she asked quietly, so as not to alarm her daughter. "He hasn't shown up again, but I'm afraid he might return." James frowned, a serious expression taking over his face. "About that, I have something to tell you," he said hesitantly. "I've been investigating Chief's situation, and I discovered some interesting things." The two stared at him, apprehensive. "From what I've been able to find out, Tom wasn't the real owner of the buffalo," revealed James. "He worked as a handler on a ranch near Flagstaff, from where Chief disappeared about 8 months ago." "So, he stole the buffalo?" asked Olivia, horrified. "Not exactly," explained James. "According to the reports I obtained, the buffalo was very sick, and the owner of the ranch ordered it to be put down. It was considered a loss to keep an animal in those conditions." Olivia felt tears forming in her eyes. "They were going to kill him just because he was sick?" James nodded sadly. "It's a common practice on some ranches. Unfortunately, many see animals only as an investment. If they don't provide returns, they're discarded." "And what happened next?" asked Susan, placing a protective arm around her daughter's shoulders. "Apparently, Tom didn't follow the order. Instead, he took the animal away, probably planning to sell it at some distant auction where no one would recognize it. The buffalo was sick, but still worth some money, especially for slaughter." Olivia felt her stomach churn at the thought of the fate that awaited Chief if she hadn't bought him. "So Tom has no right to him at all," concluded Susan, her voice firm. "He wasn't the legitimate owner." "Exactly," agreed James, "but that doesn't completely solve our problem. The true owner, a rancher named Albert Morgan, technically still holds legal ownership of the animal. Olivia's face paled. And he'll want Chief back? James hesitated before answering, measuring his words. I spoke with him yesterday. I explained the whole situation, how you saved the animal, how you've been caring for him. And what did he say? Olivia's voice was almost a whisper. He was surprised, to say the least. He didn't believe the buffalo could survive, much less recover. When I showed him the photos of Chief's progress, he was genuinely impressed. Will he take him away? Insisted Olivia, tears now flowing freely down her face. James sighed. Albert is a businessman, Olivia. For him, everything has a value, a price. When I mentioned the exhibition and the possibility of Chief participating, he became interested. An animal with a recovery story like this could bring recognition to his ranch. Susan squeezed her daughter's shoulders. What does that mean, James? Be direct, please. It means he proposed a deal. If Chief wins or places well in the exhibition, he will officially transfer ownership to Olivia. Otherwise, he wants the buffalo back. A heavy silence fell over them. Olivia looked at Chief, who was grazing peacefully, oblivious to the discussion that would determine his future. It's not fair, she finally exclaimed, her voice choked. They were going to kill him. I saved Chief. I took care of him when nobody else wanted to. He's mine. I know, Olivia. No, James tried to calm her. And I agree with you, but legally... I don't care about legally, interrupted the girl. What if he doesn't win anything at the exhibition? What if they take him away? They'll mistreat him again, maybe even... Susan hugged her daughter, feeling her small body tremble with sobs. Calm down, my child. We'll think together. She looked at James with determination. We need help. How do we ensure Chief has the best possible chance at the exhibition? James smiled slightly, admiring the strength of that family. Well, by coincidence, you're talking to one of the judges of the exhibition, he revealed, winking. I can't directly interfere in the category Chief will participate in, but I can guide you on how to prepare him in the best possible way. Olivia raised her face, still wet with tears, but with a renewed gleam of hope in her eyes. You'll really help us? I'll do everything in my power, guaranteed James. Chief has already overcome the worst moments thanks to you. Now we need to show the world the incredible transformation he's had. At that moment, as if sensing he was the topic of conversation, Chief raised his head and emitted a deep, prolonged sound. Olivia couldn't help but smile. See? He also wants to show everyone how strong he's become. Susan, who until then had maintained her reservations about the buffalo, surprised everyone. If it's a competition they want, then it's a competition they'll get, she declared firmly. We're going to transform Chief into the most beautiful and healthy buffalo that exhibition has ever seen. James nodded, impressed with the family's determination. With that attitude, we're off to a good start. The exhibition is still a month away, and Chief has already progressed a lot. Imagine how much he can improve with a whole month of intensive preparation. The rest of the afternoon was dedicated to meticulously planning Chief's care in the following weeks. James brought a complete schedule: special feeding, controlled exercises to strengthen the muscles, treatments to give more shine to the coat, and even basic training so the buffalo would respond to simple commands during the presentation. When James said goodbye, the sun was already setting on the horizon. Olivia remained in the yard with Chief, caressing his head while the animal placidly chewed the enriched grass that the veterinarian had brought. We're going to make it, Chief, she whispered, pressing her forehead against the buffalo's muzzle. I'll do everything just right, and you'll be the most beautiful in the exhibition. No one will ever separate us again, I promise. The month leading up to the livestock exhibition passed in a whirlwind of activities. The routine of the small house in the desert now completely revolved around Chief and his preparation. James Rodriguez appeared 3 times a week, always bringing novelties: a special type of feed, appropriate brushes for the buffalo's coat, medications to strengthen his hooves. I've never seen an animal respond so well to care, he commented, one afternoon watching Chief walk around the yard with increasingly firm steps. It's as if he knows he's preparing for something important. Olivia smiled, proud. She spent practically all her free time with the buffalo, rigorously following the schedule James had prepared. In the morning, she brushed his coat for at least an hour, removing dirt and stimulating circulation. Then she led Chief uncontrolled, walks around the yard, gradually increasing the distance to strengthen his muscles. "Look, Mom, how beautifully he's walking now," exclaimed the girl as Chief walked in circles around her, responding to her commands with surprising precision. Susan, who had initially resisted the buffalo's presence so much, now observed him with a mixture of admiration and affection. She herself had assumed responsibility for preparing a special mixture of grass and herbs that James had recommended to give shine to the animal's coat. "He's really becoming quite an animal," she admitted, approaching to caress Chief's muzzle, something she had never imagined doing. "Anyone who saw him arriving here wouldn't believe it's the same animal." Susan's words contained more truth than she herself realized. Chief's transformation was remarkable. The buffalo that had arrived practically on the brink of death now exhibited a lustrous coat, bright and alert eyes, and a body that, although not completely recovered, showed defined muscles and a proud posture. The news about the miraculous buffalo, as some already called him, spread quickly throughout Small Dry Creek. People who had previously laughed at Olivia's madness now passed by the yard to see Chief and express admiration. Some even brought treats or herbs to contribute to his recovery. "You've become a celebrity, Chief," joked Olivia as she brushed him under the curious gaze of some neighborhood children who crowded around the fence. A week before the exhibition, James arrived accompanied by a young woman carrying a professional camera. "Olivia, Susan, this is Claire, a journalist from the Phoenix Tribune," he introduced. "She came to do a story about Chief for the special column about the exhibition." Olivia's eyes widened, a mixture of excitement and shyness taking over her. "A story in the newspaper about Chief?" Claire smiled, bending down to be at the girl's level. "James told me the incredible story of how you saved this buffalo, and I thought it deserved to be shared with the entire state. Would you mind showing me what you've been doing and telling me how it all started?" For the next 2 hours, Claire photographed Chief from every possible angle, interviewed Olivia and Susan, and even collected testimonials from neighbors who had witnessed the animal's transformation. Olivia, initially shy, soon became excited, proudly demonstrating how the buffalo responded to her commands and explaining in detail each stage of the treatment. "The story will come out this Sunday, 2 days before the exhibition," explained Claire as she said goodbye. "It will help create expectation for Chief's presentation." When the journalist left, James remained to finalize the details of participation in the exhibition. "Now let's move on to the final preparations," he said, handing Olivia a tooled leather collar. "This is a traditional ornament for bison in exhibitions. It will look perfect on him." Olivia held the collar with reverence, imagining how elegant Chief would look with that adornment. "What will it be like at the exhibition, Dr. James?" "What will we have to do?" James patiently explained the process. Chief would be presented in the central ring, where the judges would evaluate him for physical recovery, general appearance, and response to commands. There would be other animals, competing, all with their own stories of overcoming. "It won't be easy," he warned. "Some of the animals that will participate belong to professional breeders with many resources." "But none of them has a story like Chief's," intervened Susan, surprising everyone with her confidence. "And none of them has Olivia as their handler." James smiled, nodding. "You're right, and that counts for a lot." In the recovery and animal welfare category, the connection between the animal and its caretaker is one of the most important criteria. In E. The days that followed, Olivia intensified her care for Chief even more. She spent hours brushing his coat until it shone under the desert sun, practicing the commands he should execute during the presentation, and constantly talking to the animal, as if he could understand every word. On the eve of the exhibition, after a particularly successful final rehearsal, Olivia sat next to Chief under the shade of the small shelter they had built months before. "Tomorrow is the big day, buddy," she whispered, resting her head against the buffalo's strong neck. "No matter what happens, you're already a champion, to me." Chief emitted a deep, soft sound, as if responding to his young caretaker. His eyes, once opaque and lifeless, now conveyed a quiet confidence that infected everyone around him. Inside the house, Susan prepared Olivia's best outfit for the event, carefully ironing the dress she kept for special occasions. Beside her on the table was the Phoenix Tribune open to the page where the photo of Olivia and Chief occupied almost half a sheet under the headline, "The Girl and the Buffalo, a Story of Triumph in the Desert." The Day of the Livestock. Exhibition dawned with an exceptionally blue sky over Dry Creek. Olivia woke up before the sun even rose, her heart racing with anticipation of what was to come. She carefully put on the clothes her mother had prepared, a simple but pretty blue dress, with small embroideries on the sleeves that Susan had made especially for the occasion. "Mum, do you think everything will go all right?" asked Olivia. As they had a hasty breakfast, her voice betraying the nervousness she felt. Susan, who had also dressed with care, wearing the best dress she owned and even a pair of earrings she kept for truly special occasions, smiled at her daughter with a confidence that surprised even herself. "Yes, it will, my child. You and Chief have worked hard for this. Now it's time to show everyone what you've managed to accomplish together." Outside, Chief was already awake, as if he too felt the importance of that day. James had arrived the night before with a borrowed trailer to transport the buffalo to the exhibition site, and now he was helping with the final preparations. "He looks splendid," he commented upon seeing Chief fully groomed, with his shining coat and the tooled leather collar adorning his robust neck. "It's hard to believe he's the same animal from a few months ago." On the way to the exhibition, Olivia remained beside Chief in the trailer, caressing him and whispering words of encouragement. The animal, surprisingly calm for someone who had never traveled that way, remained tranquil, as if he fully trusted his young caretaker. The event venue was a large field on the outskirts of town, now transformed with colorful tents, enclosures for the animals, bleachers, and a central ring where the presentations would take place. Flags fluttered in the wind, and the buzz of hundreds of people filled the air with an atmosphere of expectation. Upon arriving, they were greeted by Claire, the journalist, who came to congratulate them with a copy of the newspaper in hand. "You've caused quite a stir," she exclaimed, handing the newspaper to Olivia. "Everyone is talking about the girl who saved a buffalo on the brink of death. Some people have come from far away just to see you." Olivia looked around, realizing they were indeed attracting curious looks and comments as James guided Chief to the designated area. She felt her face burn with shyness, but also a wave of pride. "Look over there, Olivia," pointed Susan, indicating a tall, well-dressed man who was observing them from a distance. "That must be Albert Morgan, the ranch owner." James confirmed, with a discreet nod. "Yes, it's him. We talked earlier. He's still skeptical but curious to see how Chief performs today." The rancher wasn't the only interested observer. To everyone's shock, Tom was also present, prowling the area with an air of distrust and frustration. "What is that man doing here?" asked Susan, instinctively placing herself between him and her daughter. "He probably found out through the news report," replied James in a low voice. "Don't worry. He can't do anything here with so many witnesses. And after the newspaper story, any attempt to claim the buffalo belongs to him would be viewed with suspicion." The hours leading up to Chief's presentation were filled with intense preparation. Olivia mentally reviewed each step of the presentation while brushing the buffalo's coat one more time, ensuring it was impeccable. In a nearby enclosure, other animals in the same category awaited their turn. A horse that had been rescued from abuse, a dairy cow recovered from a serious illness, a goat that had survived an accident. "They all have impressive stories," commented James, observing the competitors, "but few have such a special bond as the two of you." Finally, the announcement sounded over the loudspeakers. "Recovery and animal welfare category, participants please proceed to the central ring." The moment had arrived. Olivia took a deep breath, feeling her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Susan adjusted the bow in her hair one last time and squeezed her hands in a gesture of support. "You can do it, my daughter. Go there and show everyone the miracle you've achieved." With determined steps, Olivia guided Chief to the entrance of the ring. They waited as the other competitors made their presentations, each receiving polite applause from the audience that filled the bleachers. When they finally announced, "Next presentation, Chief American Bison presented by Olivia Miller from Dry Creek," a different murmur ran through the crowd. Many had already read the news report and were eager to personally see the duo that had starred in that extraordinary story. Olivia entered the ring with Chief walking majestically beside her, responding to her subtle commands as if the two communicated telepathically. The initial silence of the audience soon gave way to murmurs of admiration. The buffalo, now walking with such dignity, in no way resembled the dying animal described in the news report. The presentation was impeccable. Chief executed all the rehearsed movements perfectly. He walked in circles, stopped when ordered, briefly knelt, and even emitted a sonorous bellow that drew smiles from the audience when Olivia made an almost imperceptible signal. As she guided the buffalo around the ring, Olivia narrated his story, how she found him at the auction, the deplorable state he was in, the sleepless nights caring for his wounds, the daily struggle to make him eat again. Her initially trembling voice gained confidence as she spoke, and when she finished her account, many in the audience were discreetly wiping away tears. "And today," she concluded, her voice choked with emotion, "Chief is not just alive. He's strong, healthy, and happy. He taught me that we should never give up, even when everyone says it's impossible." A reverent silence followed her words, quickly replaced by a wave of applause that seemed endless. People stood up in the bleachers, cheering the girl and her buffalo. Claire, the journalist, was frantically photographing, capturing the moment when Olivia, with tears of joy in her eyes, hugged Chief's neck amid the ovation. When they left the ring, they were immediately surrounded by people who wanted to congratulate them, touch Chief, ask questions. James managed to clear a path through, the crowd guiding them to a quieter area where they could wait for the results of the judging. "You were amazing," he exclaimed, the pride evident in his voice. "I've never seen such a moving presentation in all these years of exhibitions." Susan hugged her daughter tightly, unable to contain her own tears. "My daughter, how proud I am. You were beautiful out there, and Chief seemed to understand every word you said." As they waited, Albert Morgan, the rancher who still held legal ownership of Chief, approached. His serious countenance contrasted with the celebratory atmosphere around them. "So this is the buffalo that should have been put down," he commented, examining Chief with critical eyes. "Impressive, truly impressive." Olivia faced the man with a mixture of apprehension and defiance. "He deserved a chance, sir. Everyone deserves one." The rancher studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps you're right, girl. Perhaps you're right." Before they could continue the conversation, the sound system crackled and the announcer's voice filled the air. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have the results for the recovery and animal welfare category." Olivia held her breath, instinctively clutching Chief's fur. Susan and James moved closer, forming a protective circle around her and the buffalo. This was the moment that would define the future of that unlikely partnership forged in the Arizona desert. "In third place," the announcer's voice echoed through the sound system, creating a moment of suspense that seemed to extend indefinitely. "The horse Valiant, presented by Hope Ranch." Polite applause followed the announcement as the ranch representatives climbed to the podium to receive their bronze trophy. Olivia felt her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone around her could hear it. In second place, another dramatic pause that made Olivia grip Chief's fur more tightly. "The Goat Star from New Horizon Farm." More applause, more smiles, more nervousness. Now only first place remained, and Olivia felt the weight of everyone's gaze upon her. Susan held her hand, squeezing it gently in a silent gesture of support, while James maintained a tense but hopeful expression. "And the grand champion of this year's recovery and animal welfare category is..." The announcer made an even longer pause, as if savoring the moment. "The Buffalo Chief, presented by Olivia Miller from Dry Creek." For an instant, Olivia was paralyzed, unable to process what she had just heard. It was the deafening roar of applause and shouts from the audience that finally brought her back to reality. Susan hugged her tightly. James was clapping enthusiastically, and even Chief seemed to understand the importance of the moment, raising his head with a dignity that no one could have imagined in an animal that had been so close to death months before. "You did it," repeated James, barely able to contain his emotion. "Come on, Olivia, go up to the podium to receive the trophy." As if in a dream, Olivia guided Chief to the center of the ring, where a platform had been set up for the award ceremony. The buffalo, now perfectly trained, accompanied each step with a grace that drew expressions of admiration from the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, the story of Olivia and Chief is truly extraordinary," declared the announcer, as they climbed onto the podium. A girl of just 11 years, with limited resources but an immense heart, transformed an abandoned animal on the brink of death into an example of recovery and care. It is with great honor that we present this trophy to Olivia Miller and her buffalo chief, who have taught us all a lesson about perseverance, love, and dedication. To thunderous applause, Olivia received the gold trophy, a beautiful statuette representing a handler embracing an animal. Her hands trembled so much she almost dropped it, but she managed to hold it firmly against her chest. "Would you like to say a few words?" asked the announcer, offering her the microphone. Olivia, who hadn't prepared any speech, looked nervously at the crowd, then at her mother and James, who encouraged her with smiles, and finally at Chief, who was watching her with his serene and confident eyes. "Oh, I just wanted to thank," she began, her trembling voice amplified by the sound system, "thank my mother, who, even though she didn't want Chief at first, ended up helping to take care of him. Mr. Anthony, who taught me the first remedies. Dr. James, who believed in us when no one else did. And especially—" She paused, turning to caress Chief's head. "Especially Chief for not giving up, for fighting alongside me. You're the real champion." New tears streamed down her face as the crowd applauded with even more enthusiasm. When they descended from the podium, they were again surrounded by people congratulating them, reporters taking photos, children wanting to touch the famous buffalo. Amid the confusion, Albert Morgan, the rancher, approached again, this time with a completely different expression on his face. "I have to admit, girl, you proved me wrong," he declared, extending his hand to congratulate her. "That buffalo really deserved a chance, and you knew how to give it to him better than any adult could have." Olivia shook the man's hand, still holding the trophy with her other arm. "Does this mean—" The rancher nodded, a slight smile softening his normally austere features. "It means I'm keeping my word. The property transfer papers are already being prepared. Chief is officially yours, Olivia Miller." An immense weight lifted from the girl's shoulders upon hearing those words. Chief was safe. No one could take him away from her now. Her effort, her dedication, her unconditional love for that animal everyone had condemned. It had all been worth it. The rest of the day passed like a whirlwind of emotions. They were interviewed by various newspapers and even by a television crew from Phoenix. They received invitations to visit schools and tell their story, proposals to write a children's book based on Chief's journey, and even an offer to participate in a national awareness campaign about animal welfare. When they finally returned, home at the end of the day, exhausted but radiant, they found a surprise waiting for them. The small street where they lived was decorated with colorful ribbons, and the neighbors had organized an impromptu party to celebrate the victory of Olivia and Chief. "Surprise!" they shouted in unison when the trailer parked in front of the house. Sarah ran to hug her friend, followed by several other neighborhood children. Mr. Anthony smiled proudly, like a grandfather watching his grandchild graduate. Even Mr. Johnson, the store owner who had always complained about the waste of taking care of a condemned animal, had contributed sodas and candies for the celebration. Susan, seeing that demonstration of affection and recognition, couldn't contain her tears. "See, my daughter? You didn't just save Chief, you brought hope to our entire community." The party extended until nightfall, with people continuously coming to congratulate Olivia and admire Chief, who remained surprisingly calm amid the excitement, as if he knew he was the guest of honor. When the crowd finally dispersed and quietness returned, Olivia led Chief to his shelter in the yard, now much more comfortable and spacious thanks to the improvements they had made over the months. We're champions. Chief, she whispered, embracing the buffalo's strong neck, and now no one will ever separate us. As if understanding every word, Chief emitted a deep, gentle sound, lowering his head so Olivia could caress his muzzle. Later, as Olivia prepared for bed, she found an envelope on her bed. Inside was a carefully folded letter with her mother's characteristic handwriting. My dear Olivia, today the whole world saw what I've been observing for months, the extraordinary strength that exists within you. When you brought that nearly lifeless buffalo to our home, I confess I thought you had lost your mind. How could we care for an animal that size? How could we save him when we barely had enough for ourselves? But you never doubted, not for a second. While everyone said it was impossible, you simply kept doing what you believed was right, one day. At a time, one small victory after another. The trophy you won today is beautiful, but the real prize is what you built with your own hands. The new life you gave to Chief, the respect you earned from the entire community, and the lesson you taught all of us about the power of compassion and perseverance. Your father would be immensely proud of you. I know he is. With all my love, Mom. P.S. Yesterday I received a letter from him. He's coming home in 2 weeks. He says he has enough savings for us to start a better life, and he can't wait to meet the champion buffalo his daughter saved. Tears of joy streamed down Olivia's face as she hugged the letter to her chest. Her father was coming back. Chief was safe. Life, which had once seemed so difficult and without prospects in that small corner of the desert, was now opening up to possibilities she had never dared to dream of. From her bedroom window, she could see Chief's silhouette in the moonlight, resting peacefully in his shelter. The silvery light bathed his coat, now strong and shiny, so different from that dying animal she had found at the auction months ago. Olivia fell asleep with her mother's letter under her pillow, the gleaming trophy on the small table beside the bed, and her heart overflowing with happiness. Her dreams that night were filled with green fields where she and Chief ran freely, without fear, without limits, supported by the love that had transformed them both. In the months that followed, the fame of Olivia and Chief spread far beyond small Dry Creek. They became symbols of that region punished by drought, but rich in determination and hope. Groups of students regularly visited the property, now expanded with the arrival of Olivia's father, to meet the champion buffalo and hear his extraordinary story of recovery. With the money Joseph had brought and the opportunities that arose, after the exhibition, the family managed to buy a larger piece of land, where they raised not only Chief but other animals rescued from similar situations. James Rodriguez had become a frequent visitor, offering veterinary guidance and bringing special cases that needed Olivia's magic touch, as he used to say. Chief, now completely recovered and stronger than ever, remained the pride of the small recovery farm they had established. On his broad back, Olivia occasionally took sick children for brief rides, sharing with them the same hope that had once driven her to save that buffalo nobody wanted. The story of the desert girl and her buffalo became a local legend, passed from mouth to mouth, a narrative of faith, perseverance, and the transformative power of love. It showed that even in the most adverse circumstances, when we truly believe and are willing to dedicate our heart and hands to caring for others, miracles can happen. And for Olivia, now growing under the Arizona skies, accompanied by her faithful Chief, life had taught its most valuable lesson, that true strength lies not in muscles, money, or power, but in the ability to see potential where others see only lost causes, and in the courage to fight for what the heart knows is right, even when everyone around says it's impossible. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Tell us which city you're watching from.